This week we are back in the trusty UFC Apex for UFC Vegas 90. We're going to break down this entire card from start to finish, go over every single fight, and I'll give you a prediction for every single fight. Something I do need to point out, though, is because I make a pick in every single fight does not mean I'm betting on every single fight. Some people seem confused by this. I'm trying to clear that up. I'm not betting every single fight. I make a pick because I tell you I'm going to make a pick in every single fight. If I don't make a pick, that makes me look like a doofus. And so we're going to make a pick in every single fight. So just keep that in mind, that just because I pick a fighter does not mean I'm betting that fighter. So when you come at me in the comments like, I can't believe you're dumb enough to bet on so-and-so, it's not necessarily what's going down. Sometimes I pick a fighter simply because we have to make a pick for the video, and I do that for your entertainment. This is entertainment. If you didn't see the little graphic, this is entertainment. So either way, let's get into that first fight. I've talked too much. Links are in the description. Hit the like button. Women's bantamweights next. We have Mullins taking on Cornolle, I think is how you say that. 5-0 in the last five for Cornolle. Mullins still undefeated at 6-0, making her 5-0 in her last five. Good matchup here. Striker versus grappler for the most part, but both of them are, equipped to handle the other's strengths. For Cornolle, good striker, Muay Thai style, good clean combinations, kicks to all levels. Probably the better striker out of the two here by a decent amount. Good clinch, knees and elbows. She's got those solid there. In the grappling department, if she gets on top, she's got pretty good ground and pound, but I don't imagine she's going to have the grappling of Mullins. Now, Mullins not going to have the striking of Cornolle, but it's still pretty good, right? She's accurate, good volume, but she doesn't move her head enough. Her striking defense is bad because her head just stays right on that center line. Now, when it comes to her grappling, she's got decent takedowns, but once she gets on top, that's it. Solid ground and pound, plenty of volume, very good top pressure, even while raining down shots. And then my favorite thing about Mullins here, the way she uses her knee as a pivot point or like a post. So she'll pin down something, whether that be your shoulder, your neck, your arm, whatever, and use that to pivot and put pressure on you while she's landing her ground and pound. And so then if she needs to go to the next position, instead of picking up the leg and going over, pushing the weight off the mat, she's pushing that knee right through whatever she's resting on, whether that be your bicep, your forearm. She puts all the weight on that to step over into mount or step through into whatever. She does a very good job of pivoting on her opponent with her knee, which you can technically set your knee on the face of your opponent on the ground. You can't knee them in the head, but you can set your knee on their face and pivot. That is not against the rules, to my knowledge. It never was when I was in it anyway, but you can definitely do that. I can see a ref not knowing that and messing it up, but in the rules, it does not say that you can't do that. And she's actually done it quite a few times. That is probably my favorite thing about her grappling, is just how nasty she is on the mat with those, with using her knees, using that ground and pound. But on the feet, I don't think it looks good for her. I think Cornelle's the much better striker, and I think in the clinch, it's going to be kind of a gray area because, yeah, Cornelle's the better, more damaging clinch fighter, but it also puts her at risk for being taken down, so there's that problem. So for me, this one's a close fight. It's a good fight, an interesting matchup, but I got to start with the grappler here. I think Melissa Mullins is going to get this done, and I think it's because she's going to get this fight to the mat. I think she'll be able to use that ground and pound, and I think she can use that really good top pressure to win this matchup, and I think she might actually get a TKO finish somewhere second or third round, I would say. So I'm going with Mullins probably by TKO from ground and pound. Let me know where you're at. We've got Budka taking on Cesar Almeida. This is in the middleweight division. Now, guys, really quick, if you haven't done it yet, and if you've been enjoying yourself thus far in this short bit of the video, do me a solid, scroll on down, hit that like button for me. It really helps the channel out, doesn't cost you anything, and you're already here watching, so you might as well just do that while I'm rambling. So, anyway, let's break this one down, though. Like I said, they're at middleweight, 4-0 for the career for Almeida. So, last five fights is, well, there's only 4 of them. That's wild to me. Absolutely wild that he's in the UFC at 4-0 and isn't like Bo Nickel or something. You know what I mean? The dude comes in through the Contender Series. I guess so did Nickel. Either way, he has a kickboxing background, and a very extensive one at that. So that's how it happened, but that's just wild. 4-0. Dylan Budka, 4-1 his last 5. Also making his debut coming off that Contender Series. He is the younger fighter at 24 years old as opposed to 36 of Almeida. Almeida, yeah, you're like 4-0. No miles on the clock. False. It's got the kickboxing background. So there is that. But in this one here, I think it's very clear striker versus grappler, and that's the kind of matchup we're going to get. So for Cesar Almeida, solid striking, right? This guy's a very good kickboxer, very powerful, works the body extremely well, and he has good, clean combinations. He has shown the ability to get back to his feet when he is taken down, but we don't really know a whole lot about his grappling. His grappling is a bit of a mystery at this point, minus the little bit that we've seen of him trying to get back to his feet and seemingly able to do so. On the other side, Dylan Budka. Dude is a good grappler. He's got powerful takedowns. He's got the ability to work to advance his position once he gets the fight to the mat. He's very active from his back, but he's not super dangerous on top. But the guy will control you. He will get minutes that way. And on the feet, I mean, decent striker, good volume, and he's a bit wild, but not really super dangerous. He's not cracking guys and dropping them. So it's mostly to set up the wrestling. So it's the grappler versus the striker. And I usually side with the grappler. I do. I usually side with the grappler. And I can't do it in this one. And let me tell you why. The reason why is, A, I don't think that this grappler is going to be able to control the fight from start to finish with the grappling. Maybe he does, and if he does, it'll prove me wrong. But because I don't think he's going to be able to can just control every minute of the fight with the grappling, and he doesn't really do any damage with his grappling, or just not much, I think we got to go with the striker. Judges seem to favor damage, and they don't seem to give two craps about the control time. So I'm going to take Cesar Almeida. If you were able to get both of these guys at plus money, because they've both been at plus money this week, and you were able to play both sides, that is the way to go. I hope you did that. If you didn't, maybe just watch this one. A couple of guys making their debut. A dude that's only got 4 MMA fights versus a guy that's a heavy grappler, comes from a kickboxing fight. This is a watch and see fight, and see where these guys come from, see where they go, see where they're going to go from here. But I have to make a pick, and I'm going to take Cesar Almeida. Let me know what you have, and I will see you guys in the next one. We're in the bantamweight division, where Dan Argueta takes on the debuting John Matsumoto. Matsumoto is undefeated at 14-0, making him 5-0 in his last 5 fights. Dan Argueta has a bit of a weird 5 on in. He's got 2 wins, 1 loss, and 2 no contests. One of those no contests, though, was that loss to Miles Johns. It's been overturned to a no contest after Johns tested positive for some sort of substance or what have you. But either way, the other one was the Ronnie Lawrence fight. But 2 no contests in the last 5 is kind of odd. Hopefully this one is not a no contest. For Dan Argueta, only 10 fights on the career, so he's actually the less experienced fighter overall, but the far more experienced UFC fighter. He's fought in the UFC a handful of times now, whereas Matsumoto is making his debut. For Argueta, he's a good wrestler. In fact, he's going to have the takedown advantage, the wrestling advantage here, because he's just relentlessly shooting takedowns, especially in this fight where he's going to have a striking disadvantage, which we'll cover that in a moment. Dude's relentless. He's got pretty good control. He's a very good back taker. If he takes your back, he's searching for that rear naked choke, and that's probably his best submission on the mat is that rear naked choke. In the striking, it's decent. It's mostly just set up by the wrestling threat, and it's a lot of forward pressure. I think in the striking department, Matsumoto was by far the better striker, and I don't think that's crazy to say. I think even Dan Argueta, well, maybe not Dan Argueta, but even Dan Argueta's friends might be like, yeah, pulling me aside and say, yeah, you're probably right about that. But Dan Argueta does have a lot of tools, and that's that wrestling, right? The wrestling is what he needs to get this fight done. Now for Matsumoto, good striker, good counters, excellent front kick, solid leg kick, durable as heck. The dude is going to have the advantage on the feet by a pretty good clip, from my understanding, unless he's just really biting at the fakes of the takedowns, and Argueta's coming over the top after that. But I don't think that'll be the case. I think the striking advantage for Matsumoto. Now, although Matsumoto has good grappling, I think he's going to be at a disadvantage here. He does have a powerful double leg of his own, and maybe it would be a good idea for him to shoot a takedown on Argueta before Argueta gets the chance to shoot on him. Maybe catch him off guard a little bit and make Argueta think, oh, shoot, I'm going to have to defend takedowns while trying to get my own. Maybe that's a good idea. Maybe it's not, but maybe it is. He does have the ability to sweep from the bottom and get back on top. Sometimes he's a little too willing to sit and work from his back first, though. If he doesn't, he can get that sweep. He does have a pretty good choke arsenal as well from either the top or bottom position. So for me, this is a tough one, and here's the thing. I don't think I've ever picked Dan Argueta in a UFC breakdown. And I don't think I'm going to start here, but not because I have anything against Dan Argueta. It's not like that. I just haven't picked him. And I hate that I've noticed that, because now it makes me feel like I have to pick him, but I'm not going to. I'm going to take John Matsumoto. And the reason being is because judges don't seem to like this control time thing much anymore at all. And I think Matsumoto is going to land the better strikes when it's on the feet. And I think unless Argueta just controls him on the mat the entire time, I think Matsumoto is going to probably win on the damage, right? And on the mat, I don't think Matsumoto's lost. So I'm going to take him, but I'm not confident in him because it's a UFC debut. Yes, he has looked good up until this point so far. Dan Argueta's not an easy fight, though. So I'm going to take Matsumoto, but it's probably a watch and see kind of thing. See where Matsumoto's at. Let me know what you have. Are you confident in the underdog in Dan Argueta? If so, let me know in the comments. And I've got a couple of beautiful ladies in the strawweight division next. And that reminds me, the other day, a couple of beautiful ladies in my gym said, hey, 138 MMA, what do you think? You get us a couple of swimsuits with your logo on it. We wear them around for this upcoming summer season, and we advertise your brand for you. You can put your logo right there on the breastplates or whatever you want to call those, and you can even put a nice QR code on the back so people could scan that and take them right to your YouTube channel. And I said, by golly, that sounds like a great idea. So the reason I'm saying this is because I know 3% of you, my viewers, are women. I don't know if you're beautiful, but if you do happen to be a beautiful woman and you are watching this channel, guess what? You can let me know. Shoot me a DM on Twitter and say, hey, I want one of them swimsuits. I'd probably send you one free of charge. You know what I mean? If you are not a beautiful woman, but you happen to be closely affiliated with one, let me know. I might even be willing to send her a swimsuit with the nice 138 MMA logo on it and the QR code on the back. Because you know what? Sex sells, people, and that's how we're trying to get people to the website. So we're doing what we can. Either way, Cynthia Calvillo takes on Piera Rodriguez in this matchup. Now, after we're done with the shameless plug, we're going right into the breakdown. Piera Rodriguez, 4-1 in her last 5. All the momentum is on her side as opposed to Calvillo, 0-5 in her last 5 fights. She has had a rough run. After a good start to her career, being, 9-1-1, 0-5 after that. 0-5. Not a good run. But Piera Rodriguez, she's younger, she's hungrier, but she could get beat by the veteran here. It's a close fight. And I think this is an interesting one to break down as well, because Piera Rodriguez, she's going to be aggressive on the feet. She's a decent striker, good boxing combinations, very aggressive, very good volume, but those hands just start to drop as the fight goes on. The longer that fight drags, the lower those hands get, and she doesn't protect her face as well as the fight goes on. She does have decent wrestling. She can mix in takedowns, but she doesn't control her opponent very well. Thankfully for her, she does have good takedown defense, but if she can get takedowns and not control her opponent, that's a problem. She can either get reversed or end up with her opponent getting back to the feet and just wasted all that energy, and those hands are just dropping. So, Piera Rodriguez, probably the better striker as far as aggression, but as far as technique goes, that's probably on the Calvillo side. She's got good combinations, and she sticks that jab, right? Just sticks that jab. She's going to have plenty of volume. In fact, she's putting up a ton of volume in her matchups, in her fights, even in losses. But the problem is her power is just not there. She doesn't have any power to go along with it. So backing up Piera Rodriguez is going to be very difficult. Now, as the fight goes on, she's going to be able to stick that jab, keep landing volume, and that might look good on the scorecards. But backing her up, getting that aggression away is going to be tough for her. In the grappling department, she has decent takedowns, and if she does get on top, the ground and pound is there. Tons and tons of it coming at you. And then when she's hitting that ground and pound, she gets her opponents to turn over, give up the neck, and get the rear naked choke. So for me, this is a tough one, and I think I'm just going to have to side with momentum here. Realistically, it's coming down to the momentum. I'm going to take Piera Rodriguez, but this is just kind of a watch and see fight. I don't like this one at all. Yeah, maybe the line's off, and maybe the value side is on the Calvillo side, and maybe that's a smart play. I'm just going to pass all together. Let me know what you guys think, and I will see you in the bantamweight division where Alatengheili takes on Victor Hugo. Victor Hugo is 5-0 in his last 5 fights, but he is making his UFC debut. He's taking on Alatengheili, who has 2 wins, 2 losses, and 1 draw in his last 5 fights. Now, there is a sizable reach advantage, decent, a couple inches in height, but a sizable reach advantage on the Hugo side. He's 5'7" with a 71-inch reach, as opposed to Alatengheili, who is 5'5" with a 66.5-inch reach. So on the feet, that does give Hugo just a little bit of an advantage there. On the mat, it also can give him a bit of an advantage, but I do think that it's going to help him in this matchup to make up for the slight striking disadvantage he's going to be at, whereas Haley's going to be the better striker. So there is that. This might even the playing field just a little bit. Let's break down Hugo's skills first, and then we'll circle back to Alatengheili. For Hugo, decent striker with good forward pressure. He's got plenty of power, and he kind of strikes in flurries. He'll come in, land his shots, and then get back out and reset if he's not able to get a takedown at the end of those strikes, that is. He is kind of wild, and I don't really like that for him in this matchup, because in this matchup, he's going against a guy who has very good counter strikes, and we're going to cover that momentarily. So the wildness can be a problem for him in this one. Good grappling, though. He's got good takedowns. He's very much submission over position on the mat and can lose his position by diving at something wild, but usually he's able to keep circling through, going for those submissions and getting done what he needs to get done. And he has a bit of a leg lock specialist, which at the UFC level doesn't bode well for him. I'm not liking some of the things for Victor Hugo. On the other side, Alatengheili. There's a lot of things I like, but there's a lot of things I don't like. Good striker, decent power, and he counters well. Problem is he can get caught waiting. You're waiting for those counter strikes as an opponent enters in. And also, he doesn't handle pressure well. So a guy with a lot of forward pressure can give him trouble. So here we see forward pressure, doesn't handle pressure well. Here we can see, bit wild, can get countered. Neither of those things neither of those things make it easy to pick who you think is better on the feet. In the grappling department, though, Alatengheili, he's a decent wrestler, and he does mix in takedowns, typically if he's not the better striker. But is he going to mix in takedowns here? I don't think it'd be good for him. Realistically, on the feet, I would give Alatengheili a really good shot at winning this fight. But because I don't know how he's going to handle that pressure very well, he can get the counter shot and get the knockout over Hugo, and I would not be surprised. But I do think Hugo, if this fight gets to the mat, is going to have a sizable advantage. And so for those reasons, I'm going to take Victor Hugo, but I don't feel very good about it, and it's his UFC debut, so I'm going to stay away. I'm just going to kick my feet up on the coffee table, crack open a nice ice-cold root beer, and enjoy the show. Now, if that sounds like you, you can get one of those shirts at the website, 138mma.company.site. The link is in the description. Or you can get one like this wonderful shirt that I'm wearing that has my ugly face on it that actually apparently looks a little something like a crazy Rose Namajunas. Somebody pointed that out. You can find that photo probably on my Twitter somewhere. So either way, guys, thanks for watching this one. We'll see you in the next. A couple of women in the bantamweight division. Norma Dumont takes on Germaine de Randame. Both of these ladies are 4-1 in their last 5, but there's a little bit of a asterisk next to de Randame. She hasn't fought in a long time, like a really long time, like multiple years. So long ago that this channel wasn't around the last time that she fought. And this channel's coming up on 2 years in August. So it's been a while. And it was quite a while before that even. Was it 3-4 years or something, like 4 years? Something like that. It's been a long time, like forever ago. The long ago, the before time. Germaine de Randame, 4-1 in her last 5, like I said, but has not fought in a long time. So what are we going to get? Now, I'm going to break down her skill set from what we know, but is it the same skill set? That's the trick question. She's going to be older. She's older now by quite a bit. She's older in this fight, 39 years old. We do know women age a little bit better than men in MMA, and I don't know why. I don't know entirely why that is. Maybe because they get knocked out less. Like, you don't see a lot of just, like, shut your lights out knockouts in women's MMA. You see some TKOs, and you do see some of those, but there's not as many just, like, out cold, dead to the world. So maybe that's why they age better. I'm not sure. Either way, it's 39-33. Dumont's in her prime, whereas de Randame's, she's definitely getting out of her prime for sure at this point. So, it could be a factor. Let's put it that way. But for de Randame, she is the better striker in this matchup. That's not something we can question. She's a very good striker. Picks her shots very well, tons of power, super accurate with her strikes, often uses her like lead hand to kind of like, land and like keep on her opponent while she's picking shots. And then as she picks that one, she'll stick another one while still keeping that hand on the opponent. Not all the time, but in a lot of instances. She's going to put all of her strikes together. Knees, punches, elbows, kicks, everything in combination, and it's absolutely beautiful. She's a very, very good striker. Kicks to all levels with multiple angles, right? She's got your roundhouse kick that you see everybody throw, but she'll put the front kick in there. She'll, mix it up to the body, mix it up to the face, all sorts of different things. She'll switch from a kick to a knee. When you're thinking kick, it's coming up like this, and it's a kick, so I need to rush it, and then just kidding, it was a knee. Get you when you're rushing in. She does a very good job at that. So far better striker. Decent takedown defense. And if she can keep this on the feet and these skills are all still the way that I believe that they are, she's going to have some pretty good luck. But keeping on the feet might be tough because Dumont, although she's a good striker, she's going to have the grappling edge in this matchup. But in the striking for Dumont, she's got decent power, very good striking defense. She doesn't get hit a lot. Like, she does not get hit a lot at all. She does a pretty good job of getting her head out of the way. And counter-striking back. Now, I don't think that's going to go super well for her here because de Randame's a better striker by a long shot. But Dumont's a good striker in her own right. And the volume for Dumont has been good lately, but it can be inconsistent. And the reason it's inconsistent is because it's dependent kind of upon her opponents giving her opportunities on counters. Because when Dumont throws combinations, they pretty much always come off of a counter. Otherwise, she's throwing a single shot because she's trying to bait you in for a counter strike. That's what she does. So if she's going to have good volume and output, she needs to be getting stuff to counter. Now, de Randame's going to give her things to try to counter, but I don't think that's going to work super well. So I think what she's going to need to do is use her grappling. She has excellent takedown defense, so she's not going to end up on the bottom, which I don't think we got to worry about for the Dumont side here. But she's got a good cage push, and if she gets the fight to the mat, her top pressure is very, very solid. I'm going to take Dumont. She's more active. She's younger. She has a big grappling edge. This right here, that's the edge. She has a big grappling edge. So I'm going to take Dumont for those reasons. But if she gets stuck on the feet, you have all this right here. That's going to be a big problem for Dumont. But my choice right there, Norma Dumont for the win. Let me know what you have, and I'll see you guys in the next at welterweight, where Court McGee takes on Alex Morono. And guys, if you've noticed, I cut my hair. So we're back to where every time there's a white male fighter with a buzz cut, actually I take that back, just a white fighter with a buzz cut, hence the Rose Namajunas comparisons as of late. I'm going to get comments saying that I look just like them. Guys, we just are white guys with buzz cuts. That's all it is. But Alex Morono, apparently him and I look alike just because we're both white guys with a buzz cut. I heard it a ton in the comments last time he fought, but we're back to it. So here we go, guys. 3-2 in the last 5 for Morono. And also, they're fun comments. Go ahead and drop them all. I don't mind. It's a fun time. Court McGee, 2-3 in his last 5, 3-2 for Morono. Morono's younger, 33, still in his prime, essentially, whereas Court McGee's at 39, and the durability's starting to fade, and that's a problem for McGee. For Morono, we're going to start on his side. Good striker, plenty of volume, good combinations. He circles off really well while he's throwing combinations laterally, and he's got good leg kicks. So there we go. Striking, definitely the advantage on the Morono side. Good jiu-jitsu. His takedown defense is suspect, and that's a problem because Court McGee can just kind of grind fights out that way sometimes. We're going to cover that in a moment. But good jiu-jitsu. He likes to jump on submissions and scrambles, and then also has pretty good scrambles. When the transition happens where he's either, he creates the scramble, whatever, then he jumps on the neck or, jumps for an arm or whatever it is. But, that's when he's looking for the submissions. It's not like he doesn't often do the thing where he, gets on top and starts systematically looking for a submission. No, it's like jumps on him opportunistically when there's a transition happening. So on the other side, McGee, decent striker with good forward pressure. He's just going to kind of 1-2 as he's coming forward. Just 1-2. Just like that. Really steady. Kind of plod forward. Striking defense isn't great, but he used to be durable. So it used to be a thing where he could just eat those shots and keep coming with the 1-2 until he can get a hold of you, push you up against the cage, get the takedown, and just grind you out as he's just, holding you down. Now he's not as durable, and those shots, he's starting to eat those shots and kind of wobble him, rattle him, and maybe even knock him out again. So in the striking, he is going to be in trouble here. And I don't think he can use that forward pressure to get in and get those takedowns. However, if he does, if he gets on top, I think he's going to be able to grind out a lot of minutes over Alex Morono. So there is a path to victory for Court McGee. It's a grindy decision. I don't think he's knocking out Morono. I don't think he's going to just outstrike Morono, but I do think he can grind out a decision. Now, on the other side for Morono, I think everything else is in his favor. I think all the finishing upside is on the Morono side. I think he's going to be able to circle away from the takedowns and just land shots, hurt McGee on the feet. McGee's going to start looking for takedowns. He's not going to get them. I think Morono's going to win the fight. So my pick is going to be Alex Morono. But like I said, watch out for that boring, grindy decision on the Court McGee side. Let me know what you think, though. I will see you guys. We've got Trevor Peek and Charlie Campbell in the lightweight division. Both of these guys are 4-1 in their last 5 fights. And something kind of interesting, when I was looking at Charlie Campbell's record, and I was going back, and he has 2 losses. We all know about the one on Contender Series. But one he has is to a guy, I believe, named like Anthony Newton or something like that, way back in his career. Like, you don't even need to watch that tape to get a read on Campbell because it was so far back as far as how many fights ago, like forever ago. But this guy he was undefeated as an amateur, this Newton guy, went to be a pro. His one win is over Charlie Campbell. And he's never fought again. And I just, like, in my head, I couldn't not just imagine that dude, like, sitting there, hanging out with his buddies, watching the fights on, like, a Saturday night and being like, yeah, I beat that guy in a fight once. And, like, just never fought again. But, like, he has a win over a guy in the UFC, and it wasn't that, I mean, it was years ago, but it wasn't like in the 70s, you know what I mean? Like, it was like 2019 or something like that. But that's just wild to me that the dude he beat a guy who is now in the UFC, and he's never fought again. So, who knows? I don't know. Either way, Charlie Campbell versus Trevor Peek. That was a weird tangent to go on. 4-1 in the last 5 for both of these guys. Charlie Campbell, he's the cleaner fighter everywhere. He's a good striker, power, accurate, good combinations. Everything Trevor Peek is not. He's got a solid leg kick. The one issue, though, is he's wide open to counters when he throws that leg kick. I don't know I don't know why, but his hands just come down and he's just right there for the shot. And that kind of is what cost him a little bit in that Contender Series matchup, is being wide open for the counters. But outside of that, he's the cleaner striker, the much better striker. Decent grappling as well. He's got pretty good takedown defense, and if he gets on top, the ground and pound is there. So Charlie Campbell, much cleaner. Trevor Peek, wild man. Dude's decent striker, and I only say that just because his power and his volume and just pressure and pace make up for the fact that he's not clean, nothing's pretty. He's just coming forward and trying to take your head off. Punches are wild. He's got horrible defense in the striking, but he's very durable, and he's going to throw naked leg kicks from, all the way across the darn cage. Just wide out there. Doesn't care, because if you hit him, who cares? He's just going to keep on coming. Decent wrestling as well. He can mix in takedowns. Takedown defense isn't the best, but he does bounce right back to his feet typically when he's taken down. Ultimately, I think this is going to be a striking matchup between these two guys. I think Campbell should win if this goes to decision, and if this goes to decision, I think he's definitely going to win. If it doesn't go to decision, I think it's the Peek side that gets the win, because I think Peek's coming in there just slinging bombs. And if you can get knocked out by Duncan on the Contender Series, who isn't a guy that when I think of him, I think of like somebody that just slings hammers, you can probably get knocked out by a guy like Trevor Peek, who does sling hammers. So that makes this tricky. I think for the fun of this one, I think I'm just going to make a pick of Trevor Peek. And honestly, this is probably the least confident pick I have on the card. And I didn't make it until right before recording this video. And I thought, it's going to be way more fun to root for Trevor Peek than it is to root for Charlie Campbell. Nothing against Campbell, but it's fun to root for Trevor Peek. Don't bet on this one, guys. Kick your feet up on the coffee table, crack open a nice cold root beer, toss that sucker back, and enjoy yourself. But I'm going with Trevor Peek for this one. Let me know what you have. Heavyweights next. Walter Walker makes his debut against Lucas Brzeski. Brzeski is 1-3 in a no contest in his last 5 fights. It's been a rough run for him in the UFC. Walker, 5-0 in the last 5. He is undefeated on the career. Walter Walker is also known as Walter Ignacio, I do believe, on the regional scene. So if you're looking for some tape, you can look for that and you might find it. So Walter Walker, most of it's probably on Fight Pass. I watched some of it on there as well. But for Walter Walker, his striking, I originally was going to write decent striking, but I thought that was too much credit. He's got a decent step-in knee, but the rest of his striking is poor. It's not good. Striking defense is horrible, and he seems uncoordinated on the feet. He does have, decent power, but that's just because he's a big freaking dude. He's like 265 at the limit, 6'6" with a giant wingspan. So he's got decent power, but his striking just seems uncoordinated. But, it is what it is. You can get by with that. He does have good wrestling, actually pretty good wrestling for a heavyweight. Good wrestling by other standards, maybe not, but for a heavyweight, it's good. Good takedowns, top pressure is there, just grinds you out. This gets on there, controls you, and grinds. Now, he will use the ground and pound, but only after he secures that position, and you are not trying to get back to your feet at that point. He's looking for position first, and that is it, and he's just going to grind you out. One thing I really like about Walker, though, is that he can still shoot a takedown while he's exhausted, and shoot a takedown, not just a reach down and grab at legs. That's not what I mean when I say shoot. Dude changes levels and goes for the takedown, and that is a huge, huge thing, because most heavyweights can't shoot a takedown to begin with, let alone do that when they're tired. He does a good job at it. So Walter Walker has that going for him, but this, not a bit. He's fighting Brzeski. Now, Brzeski, probably the better striker in this matchup. He's got good power, good pressure forward, heavy, heavy leg kicks. Spins way too much. I don't like that at all. Very, very bad nail. Good enough hammer. He can do a good job when he's winning the fight, but once he starts losing the fight, dude just falls apart, crumbles. Decent grappling if he gets on top. He's got decent pop pressure, decent ground and pound, but his takedown defense isn't the best. Honestly, I think this is a fight to get Walker into the UFC, get him a win, and send Brzeski out of the UFC. Gonorowski out of here. We're going with Walter Walker to get this one done. I think he's going to take him down, control him, do what he needs to do, possibly get a late ground and pound finish, but also potentially just grind out a boring decision. Walter Walker's the pick. I think it's pretty clear what we're looking at here, unless Brzeski's back on the juice. That is something to keep in mind. But let me know what you have. I'll see you guys. Lightweights. Ignacio Bahamondes takes on Christos Giagos. Giagos is 2-3 in his last 5 fights, 3-2 for Bahamondes. And there is a notable height and reach advantage on the Bahamondes side. He's 6'3", 75.5-inch reach, as opposed to the 5'10", 71.5-inch reach for Giagos. Interesting fight here, right? Because Giagos is probably the more well-rounded fighter. kind of pretty good everywhere. He starts really fast, which is good, but he also fades pretty quick, which is not good. But he does have decent striking, plenty of power, especially early in the fight. As it goes on, not as much. His defense isn't great, but he does have good grappling to back that up if he needs to take the fight to the mat. Very good at taking the back and getting that rear naked choke. More well-rounded, but he's going against Bahamondes. Bahamondes is a very good striker. He's a solid striker that uses his length very well, fights out of either stance. He's very accurate, plenty of volume, plenty of power, moves his head well, good counter-striking ability, and he has kicks to all levels. When you're this tall, it's pretty easy to snap a kick up to somebody's head. Giagos is pretty tall at 155. He's not short anyway. He's not tall for the division necessarily, but he's not short either. Like there's guys like Michael Chandler, for example, they're like 5'8", 5'10", it's a bit taller. But what I'm saying is when you're 6'3", you can snap that leg up to the head of somebody who's 5'10" a lot easier than somebody 5'10" trying to kick a 6'3" guy in the head. That's what I'm trying to get at. In the grappling department for Bahamondes, he's got decent takedown defense, and it's basically he threatens with those front chokes when guys try to enter, and he does a good job with it. You can get the front chokes, definitely can get the sub. He's done it before, but the striking is probably his best weapon. And I think in this matchup, it's going to be too much for Giagos. Giagos is good, but I don't think he's I don't think he's very good past a certain point in the fight. And that's the problem for him. So I've got to side with Bahamondes here. I think he's tough enough to carry the fight as late as he needs to. And I think at that point, he's going to be able to take over with his striking, stop the takedowns of Giagos, and I think he's going to be able to get the win there. Don't know if it's by knockout, decision, or submission. All three paths are live for Bahamondes. For Giagos, I think he needs a quick finish. I don't think he's winning a decision here. So let me know where you're at. I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments. But my pick is going to be Bahamondes. In action next, Morgan Carriere takes on Jose Chepe Mariscal. Mariscal 5-0 in the last 5, 4-1 for Carriere. In this one here, it's a good fight. It's an interesting fight. A lot of people are torn on this one. The line movement has perplexed me a little bit, and we'll go over that in a while. For Mariscal, dude's a good striker. Plenty of volume, plenty of power. Has really good flurries when he strikes. He sends that quick flurry and then just kind of resets and gets back to where he needs to get. He is a bit open to counters either before or after that flurry. Kind of similar to like a Robert Whittaker. Obviously not the level of Robert Whittaker. Robert Whittaker's a former world champion, but you get what I'm saying. Where Whittaker, he has like those flurries, and on the way into the flurry, he can get cracked. On the way out of that flurry, he can get cracked. That's kind of what happens for Mariscal. His hands will drop, and he can be open for counters at the beginning or end of the flurries. Good wrestler. Got good takedowns. I guess it's a judo background, so good judo, I guess, but seems to use a little mix of, judo style, grappling, but also that traditional wrestling style. Good takedowns, good ground and pound, does a good job there. He's a good fighter just to be pretty decent everywhere, right? He doesn't have any areas where he's just poor. On the other side, Carriere, dude's a striker through and through. That's what he wants to do. He's a good forward pressure striker, plenty of power, good counters. His volume can be a little bit lower at times. It's hit or miss. Kind of depends on what his opponent's giving him. He has good boxing combinations in the pocket, especially. So if he gets in tight, that's a place that he can start landing those good combinations. At range, it's not like he's lost at range, but he's definitely better in the pocket, putting together those like inside combinations. So in the grappling department, you can mix in takedowns as a change of pace, but typically he's more of a striker, and that's kind of his bread and butter. For me in this one, I believe it was Mariscal opened as an underdog, moved down to a -110 favorite. I saw that and was like, oh yeah, money's going to keep coming in on Mariscal. He's the clear side here. And then somehow he ends up back as an underdog. And I'm like, what in the world's going on here? And then now it's moving back to look like he's going to be a favorite. So this line movement's just like going wild, right? Because you don't usually see that. You see some swaying in it, but it's not like moving to favorite and underdog kind of style. For me, I think I'm surprised it didn't just keep going where Mariscal is a bigger favorite. I think he's getting this one done all day. And if you give me him as an underdog, that seems pretty crazy to me. So Chepe Mariscal is my pick. I think he's going to win this fight just by being the more well-rounded fighter, being able to push Carriere up against the cage, work his cage push, maybe get some takedowns, land some ground and pound, do what he needs to do to make this fight dirty, ugly, and eliminate the striking from Carriere. So for me, Chepe Mariscal, let me know what you have. We've got Alexander Hernandez taking on Damon Jackson in the featherweight division for this matchup here. Jackson 3-2 in his last 5 fights, 2-3 for Hernandez. This one jumped out to me as a fight I was really looking forward to. before I started digging into it a little bit more when I just looked at the matchup. So I'm actually excited for this fight. Damon Jackson is a fighter that I am a big fan of, so take that for what it is. He is, if you remember, if you've been a fan for like over a year now, you probably remember my top 5 fighters in the UFC video. Somehow they're all still in the UFC, so that's cool. Damon Jackson was one of them, so there you go. I do really like Damon Jackson. Freaking cool. The Leech, or Action, whatever you want to call him, depends on what time frame we're looking at. But either way, Damon Jackson, all right? Dude's a good striker, or decent anyway. His wrestling threat kind of opens up his striking, because if you think he's shooting for that takedown, he's darn good in the wrestling, and you don't really want him to get to your back. You don't want him to get to even take you down in general. So you kind of have to respect that a little bit, and that opens up those shots down the middle with those long rangy straights that he has. And that's kind of his best weapon on the feet, is just those straight punches as he's coming forward, looking for that takedown, or setting up the straights with the fake of the takedown. His wrestling, though, that's where he gets it done. He's a solid wrestler, sets up his takedowns with his striking, which is, obviously probably the best way to get a takedown is by setting it up with your hands. So does a good job there. Excellent scrambles. He's really good at taking the back, and when he does, that control is there all day. Dude can sit there for as long as he needs to. Control, and he'll look for submissions, don't get me wrong, and he does have a fair amount of submissions on his record, but that control is going to be hard for somebody like Hernandez to get out of. On the feet, I do think Hernandez is the more powerful striker. He's probably going to have better movement laterally, things like that, and he's going to have pretty good forward pressure as well, but I don't think it's a landslide difference on the feet, but I do give the edge to Hernandez in the striking. In the grappling, however, in the wrestling side of things, yeah, Hernandez has pretty good top pressure. He's a good wrestler in general, but Damon Jackson's a better wrestler, so you have to look at that. Then, if I see that, okay, we got a better wrestler and probably a better striker, where's the fight taking place? Well, it's probably going to take place in the wrestling department, so take that for what it is. However, also, the fact that the cardio and the consistency out of Hernandez are both red flags to me makes me think Damon Jackson has a real shot in this, and he is the underdog. So I'm going to be taking Damon Jackson in this matchup. I think he gets this one done. I think he's able to take this fight to the mat, control Alexander Hernandez, and potentially get a late submission over him. So Jackson is my pick. Let me know what you have, and I will see you guys in the next fight. We've made it all the way to the main event of the evening. Chris Curtis steps in on short notice to take on Brendan Allen in a rematch in which Curtis won the first time quite a while back. Now, Chris Curtis takes this on short notice. It was originally Marvin Vettori, so Curtis steps in. And Chris Curtis seems to always do better on short notice, so maybe that's a good thing for him. But he's now stepping into a 5-round main event on short notice, so that could be a little bit different. Either way, Brendan Allen, 5-0 in the last 5 fights. The guy's been on an absolute tear. 2-2-1 no contest for Chris Curtis. One of those losses was a little bit, it was one of those things where maybe there was a head clash, maybe there wasn't. That's how we got the no contest, the head clash. Chris Curtis has been attracting people's heads to his head for a while now, and that's probably not the best thing for a guy going into a main event. If this fight ends via no contest or like some sort of sketchy, we don't really know what's going on due to a head clash, I don't know if I can take it anymore, guys. We've had some rough stuff as of late. Eye poke TKOs, eye pokes that were a TKO and then now going to a technical decision last week. We've had some rough ones, so hopefully we don't get a head clash in this fight. Fingers crossed. But let's break this one down, guys. It's a rematch, like I said. We've got Chris Curtis. Dude's a solid striker. It's primarily boxing, but he does have the ability to throw some kicks in there, leg kicks, things like that. You're not going to see him throwing a ton of head kicks, especially at the middleweight division where most people are going to be taller than him. He's like, on the shorter side for middleweight, but not tiny. But either way, shorter side, he's more of that stockier build. So boxing is his best, attribute in the striking. He has a very tight defensive shell, and he's extremely durable even if you do get through that shell. A lot of people, and I say this every Chris Curtis fight, the striking numbers are made up. They show that Chris Curtis is just getting landed on like crazy. He's not. He's blocking these punches, right? He's, hitting them on the arms, hitting them on the forearms, the shoulder, whatever. He's blocking these punches with that defensive shell that he has, and he's picking his spots and countering because he does have very good counters. And he's got plenty of power to go right along with those counters. But for whatever reason, the striking numbers always say that Chris Curtis was just getting boxed up at range and then he landed a knockout shot. That is not what's going on. And whoever's in charge of tallying these strikes is doing a horrible job, and they don't know what they're looking at. Because a blocked strike should not count as a significant strike. That's just my opinion. Maybe they do, and maybe I'm just not understanding that. But rant over. Either way, we're going to go back to it. He's got tight combinations, and he works the body very well. And in fact, in the first matchup, these body punches here are actually what really added up to him getting the win over Brendan Allen in the first one. Yes, he got the knockout with a headshot, but those body punches kept getting Allen's hands lower and lower and lower, and they wore on him, made him slower. And then he was able to land that big shot to the head and put him down. Those body punches are going to be a key to victory here as well, as he has to come forward, land the body shots, use that power and that countering ability. He also has excellent takedown defense, and he's going to need that here because Brendan Allen is going to be the superior grappler when the fight gets to the mat, if it gets to the mat. So that excellent defense of Chris Curtis for the takedowns is going to be tested in this one over 5 rounds. He is a bit of a slow starter. We've seen that historically, but over 5 rounds, I think that's okay. Still, he probably gives up the first round, maybe even the first 2. I do think that he's going to be able to get his pace going in this fight at some point. It's just how early is he able to do it? Is it enough to get the win? Cardio, he's got it. Don't have to worry about that at all. Cardio on the other side, Brendan Allen's got it. We don't have to worry about that at all. So these guys are both going to be able to put output for the whole fight, and I don't think I got to worry about that. Now, in the striking for Allen, he's a good striker in his own right. He's got good combinations, plenty of volume, and his body kick is probably his best weapon, or at least my favorite of his weapons on the feet. It's a very effective move, and I think that's going to be something that if he can put it with his punches, if he can get that tight guard of Curtis up high and start slamming that body kick, that might kind of change things up for him. So on the feet, he's going to want to use that body kick. And Brendan Allen, as good of a striker as he is, when you get him moving backwards, his striking kind of falls apart a little bit. That's what happened both in the Chris Curtis fight, the Sean Strickland fight, all these Extreme Couture guys that just come forward, that are making him back up, and he doesn't strike as well when moving backwards. So that's something to take note of here. In the grappling, he's going to be the better grappler here if he can get this fight to the mat. He's a very solid grappler with good takedowns, and when he does get to the mat, he's very good at taking the back and going for that rear naked choke. Ultimately in this fight, this is an interesting one. I'm in a bit of a pickle here. And there are 2 bets that I really like in this matchup, neither of them being a money line bet, but there are 2 that I really like here. And both of them are pretty close to that even money range, give or take a little bit, a little wiggle room. If you remember, I did pick Brendan Allen to be the champion at the end of 2024. Now, I don't know that that's going to happen now because I don't even know who's fighting for the title next, and who knows even if time was going to get there. But Brendan Allen was originally slated to fight Marvin Vettori. Brendan Allen was going to beat Marvin Vettori for sure. I was, maybe not for sure, things happen in MMA, but I was very confident in Brendan Allen over Marvin Vettori. I didn't see him fighting Chris Curtis on this card. Chris Curtis is probably the worst stylistic matchup for a guy like Brendan Allen. This is a problem because I picked Brendan Allen to be the champion at the end of the year, so I should pick him to win this fight. But I think Chris Curtis just has that style that is the kryptonite for a guy like Brendan Allen. Styles do make fights. I don't feel confident in it because Brendan Allen's been on a tear and he's been looking really good. But I'm going to slightly lean the Chris Curtis side. Mostly because I think he's just a bad stylistic matchup for Brendan Allen. So we're going to go Chris Curtis. Guys, if you haven't done it already, like this video. I appreciate you guys coming out. Thank you for the support. Remember, the links are in the description. I will see you guys in the next one. Oh, hey, before I forget, don't forget to check out the live stream. We're probably doing it tomorrow if you're watching this today for the PFL breakdown. So don't forget to check that out. Me and Couch. So see you guys there.